We now have a panel discussion. The discussion will be moderated by Mr. Sanjeev Das. May I now invite Sanjeev Das on the stage, please. I now invite PMI PCC Director Tony Jacob to come forward and welcome Mr. Sanjeev Das by giving a bouquet.
Thank you.
Sanjeev Das will take it ahead for the panel discussion. Thank you.
So, good morning, everybody. Okay, so I think let me first start by thanking PMI, and in fact, let me just congratulate PMI for getting such an important topic for discussion today morning. Now, this topic that we really have is about how to really institutionalize project management within the whole government realm, right? And I'm pretty much sure all of you will really agree with me. This is an extremely important topic to all of us, considering we are the responsible citizens of this particular country, and that becomes much more pertinent considering where we as a country or a nation is poised in the overall growth path. Now, to really discuss this important topic, I'm pleased to really let you know that we have some very eminent personalities who have not only just led, delivered, and sponsored multiple successful delivery projects within the whole government and the private sector with us. And I'll take this honor to introduce this eminent panel to you. So let me first request and call on stage Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. So Mr. Jayesh Ranjan is a member of the Indian Administrative Service and of the 1992 batch. He's currently the Managing Director for the Telangana Industrial Infrastructure Corporation and has worked in identifying various industrial development projects across the board and has been very, very successful in terms of delivering those particular projects as such. Next, I would request Mr. Hari Ranjan Rao to really come on stage, please. Mr. Hari Ranjan Rao, a 1994 IAS officer and has more than 20 years work experience in the various departments as District Collector, Project Director for Urban Development, Managing Director for Madhya Pradesh State Tourism Corporations, etc. He is currently the Secretary to the Office of the Honorable Chief Minister of MP and has been also the Secretary to various departments like Public Service Management, Tourism, Science and Technology within the government of MP. We also have with us Dr. Sanjeevan Bajaj. Dr. Bajaj, if you can come on stage, please. So she is the Chief Executive Officer for FICCI Quality Forum, and she has a very, very wide career of more than 30 years working in various public, private sector institutions before joining FICCI and being associated with FICCI. So her domain expertise include banking, financial services, administrative reforms, good governance, etc. So you can really make it out from a very, very brief synopsis of the profile that I really talked about, the kind of experience that each one of them really carry with us. Okay. Now, interestingly, I was just going through some of the articles last night, and every day, based on, as I said, where we are poised as a country in terms of the whole growth path, there are projects which are getting announced and a huge amount of investment which is being driven down to deliver those kind of projects for us, right? Now, if you really, in fact, yesterday the Department of Transport, day before yesterday to be honest, announced that they are going to really invest more than $33 billion within this particular fiscal year to upgrade the whole transport infrastructure. And similarly, quite a sizable amount of those kind of an investment is continuously going on in the various projects across the board. And we have some grand examples of big successes which we can just go on taking names about. But what is interesting is that if you look into some of the data, it really shows that around close to 50 or 60, roughly 50 to 60% of these particular projects are at times getting plagued with schedule or the budget overruns. Now, there has been some kind of a studies which has been really been done, and McKinsey currently estimates that if this trend continues by the 12th plan, which is around 2017, we may have a cumulative loss of close to $200 billion of money, which is a huge, humongous amount of money, close to 10% of our GDP, right? So, and I'm pretty much sure that is an estimate right now. And things are really changing very, very fast in terms of adaptation of quite a good amount of structured approach in terms of delivering this project. So there is a kind of a perceptions, which I will call it, prevails across the board about the way that this kind of a large-scale investments and the projects are really being managed. So let me just start off with some kind of an opening remark from our esteemed panels to really understand that how much of this particular perspective, according to you, really feel that it is true. And if it is true, what are the key critical things that we should be really immediately be attacking on to really minimize this kind of a loss if it is going to happen? So Jess, why don't you really start off with you?
Thank you, Sanjeev, and your perspective setting is very, very appropriate. In fact, after decades of implementing projects, managing projects, there is no arm in the government system today which is not convinced that there shouldn't be project management. There should be a proper emphasis on project management. But despite this intention, the gaps in implementation are still quite huge. In fact, we still come across instances of many, many projects, including quite a few which I am personally dealing with these days, which have got delayed, which have in fact there are a couple of projects, I'll give examples of them later on, which have not even taken off after 5 years of getting awarded, etc. And it's not very difficult to see where the faults lie. In fact, you must all be aware that within the government system, a greater reliance is now being placed on what are called the PPP projects, public-private partnership projects, because for various reasons, government realizes that due to budgetary constraints and due to greater expertise available in the private sector, it is better to allow private players to participate in project development, project implementation, project delivery. So I would like to focus more on the PPP basket of projects. And my personal experience is also with more of these kind of projects. For instance, the Hyderabad International Airport, this convention center where we are sitting right now. This is an example of one of the successful PPPs, the outer ring road in Hyderabad, the elevated expressway. There are so many other township projects, tourism projects, property development projects. Now, when we look across the spectrum of PPP projects and my personal involvement in some of them, I notice two very important features. One is that a priori, many of them are designed to get delayed. Many of them are designed in a way that you are bound to encounter some difficulty or the other. In fact, we also notice that there is lots of anxiety to get these projects out of ground without doing the required kind of preparatory work. So in a way, half-baked PPP proposals are floated in the market, bids are invited, when even the lands are not in your possession, right of way is not with you, the kind of clearances which are required. Sometimes some of these clearances themselves, for instance, the environmental clearances for certain kind of projects, they perhaps need easily a year or more in many cases. Issues of rehabilitating and resettling the community in case there is some displacement involved, that has not been adequately addressed. There is a lack of coordination. Sometimes some of these projects require you to coordinate with other agencies, either to procure land or to shift some utilities. So many of these things which should have been conducted beforehand, before you go to the market, try to seek a PPP partner, that is overlooked in your anxiety to get things going, to show that, all right, these 5 projects are off the ground. Mm-hmm. And then very obviously you run into difficulties. And sometimes they lead to enormous cost overruns, time overruns, etc. The second important concern which I notice in PPP projects is the way the project agreement, the concession agreement or the project delivery schedules or other kind of contracts are drawn. We notice sometimes that there are ambiguities, there are gaps, you expect something from the private party which he is just not able to deliver, but nevertheless, he bids very aggressively, he gets the project, he then tries to get clauses modified, clauses amended, which again lead into lots of legal kind of barriers. And these days, because of various kind of vigilance pressures and observations and monitoring, it also becomes very difficult to show any kind of flexibility once you have a stone cast kind of agreement before you. And because of this lack of wherewithal to really judge whether you should renegotiate or whether some clause needs to be re-looked into, you just are not able to move anywhere with those projects. So these two reasons, basically not doing your preparatory work adequately, and secondly not having the right kind of acumen to be flexible whenever there is a need to modify some clauses or relook at the agreements. These are leading to serious difficulties with a number of PPP projects. While in Hyderabad we showcase some of the successful ones like the airport, the outer ring road, this convention hall, but there are dozens of projects which tell their own story. So I mean, it's a no-brainer that we must have proper emphasis on project management. The realization is dawning upon successive governments. The government here in Telangana, I'm sure Hari's government in Madhya Pradesh is doing some great things too. At the national level also, as we know, after the regime change, there is lots of optimism. The Prime Minister himself is a person who wants to deliver what he has set out to do. I'm very sure that with good understanding about the need for proper project management, things will indeed change. And as our Prime Minister repeatedly says, "Achhe din aane wale hain."
Good. Thank you. Thank you, JS, for that wonderful perspective. Mr. Rao, anything that you would like to really add up on this particular perspective part? And how much of, because I know you, based on what I've really read, there's a huge amount of work that you have really carried on in the government of Madhya Pradesh, where the whole application of IT towards particular government, which has been extremely successful, and it has really got a huge amount of accolades, not only nationally but internationally as well, right? So how much of this thing is really true, and what specific things that you have been really been adapting, which has led to the success of this kind of projects?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev. If you ask me quickly, there is a perception that government projects are badly structured and they are designed to get delayed and in many cases failed. As Jayesh sir has very, very succinctly summed up for PPP projects, if you ask me what are the 5 top reasons for which the projects get delayed or get derailed, I can simply very quickly enumerate them like this. First and foremost, where we need to work in the government is to actually do the entire decision-making process re-engineered. See, what typically happens in government is that there are committees after committees after committees which take decisions. And as a result, nobody is single-handedly accountable for any decision. And then the decision-making gets diluted. So if given a choice, first thing that we need to do is, instead of multiple layers of committees, have the processes streamlined and pinpoint an individual that, yes, sir, this is your responsibility, you are accountable to get this project implemented, period. But then give him the freedom to take decisions. So these 2 things have to go together. This is the first bottleneck that I see in the government. And shortly, during the course of discussion, I'll tell you what we are planning to do and what we need to do together. Second issue is standardization of bid documents. When you talk of bringing in private sector on board and getting projects implemented, see, there is a huge gap. And as Jayesh sir rightly pointed out, you know, typically government contracts are so straight-jacketed that it is impossible for anybody to just get out of it. Now, but there is so much of learning around the world available. There is something called a standard bid document. We need to now start adopting those standard bid documents. There are some international best practices that we need to bring into our government contracting system. Simple issue of limited liability. You know, many of the government contracts do not have that provision. And any good international company would not like to get into a contract with government where the liability is not capped, naturally. But to be able for the government on the other side to appreciate that this is important from the public sector point of view or private sector point of view is very critical. Third issue which I think which is leading to project delays is, you know, lack of dedicated project management teams for implementing projects. Invariably what happens, there is a head of the department, there is a secretary at the top level, I'm saying, and say there are 10 projects. And at the same time, the person is also handling multiple charges. It doesn't happen, it doesn't work that way. We need to have a person who's dedicated for a project, and that's his or her responsibility to deliver. It doesn't happen. So we need to now get into a mode where individual project management teams are created in government. Fourth, flexibility to hire good manpower across the department and from the market. Some very path-breaking things have happened in this. I'll tell you during the course of discussion. And fifth is use of IT and ICT tools. This is again an area where it can substantially change the way the projects are implemented and they are monitored. I think this is the first round I would like to say this.
Okay. So coming back to you, Dr. Sanjeevan, I think you have a wide variety of experience working across private, government, and in your current role, you are dealing with both, right? And you have a very good inside view how the things really goes. So according to you, what you really see a contrasting setup that you really have, which you think that we need to really change in order to be much more effective in terms of this kind of a project management setup within the government?
Well, esteemed panelists before me have already talked a lot about why things are going wrong and what are the kind of things that can be done to fix them. From the professional project manager's perspective, the way I would like to put it is that the projects happen in two ways actually. There are projects that are planned and executed, and there are projects that are executed, stopped, planned, and then executed. So obviously we know that there is an amount of effort that needs to go into planning, at which stage we should be able to see some of these perspectives more holistically. And the weakness in the planning process definitely is a major issue in project management. In fact, the amount of emphasis we learn to place on planning is very well known. So therefore, the quality of planning, the amount of time and effort that goes into planning is really not up to the mark. It's not up to what is required. But then at the same time, it's not just planning that is going to stop things from being delayed. Because they say, as they say, that a badly planned project will take 10 times the time that you want it to take. A better planned project will take 2 times the amount of time that you'd want it to take. So nevertheless, even if the planning is done with a lot of effort, even then there are going to be issues. To my mind, the second aspect is the quality of risk management that we do. In fact, as part of an IT services company, the project management, we used to be quite good at the project planning part of it because we had a lot of experience of previous projects and we were able to crack the planning riddle, but the risk management part was not that robust. The risk management work was happening more as a mechanical activity. We have to have a list of risks and we have to have preventive mitigative actions given in the project plan. But actually when a risk materialized, our plan B was really not working. So therefore the planning and the risk management perspectives, those are the main weaknesses.
Sure. Good.
And talking of comparison between the public and the private sector, the government and the private parts, I think very clearly in the private organizations such as the company that I worked with, there was widespread realization that you have to have project management credentials. And sometimes that kind of realization was forced on us also, because when we were catering to clients from abroad, they would insist that all the people who are working on the project, they have a PMP certification or an equivalent. Sure. So they would not accept project managements who did not have this kind of this thing. So I suppose in the government, nobody's forcing you to have that, so therefore there is a gap over there. And the other perspective that I have, I noticed during my work was that in the government scene in India, and we had some clients from abroad, government clients from abroad also. Here, of course, there was no emphasis that there are some credentials required. I mean, you thought anybody who's a good administrator is also a good project. By default, will be a good project manager, but in actual practice, that doesn't seem to happen. I remember that we had interacted with the Office of Management Budgeting in the US government, and in 2004, they were also struggling with these issues, that you have these projects with huge outlays. And in fact, they were doing an exercise at that time where they were establishing an institutionalized process to weed out projects. Because after some time, you realize that certain projects are not going to make it, so you have to then say that, okay, we stop doing this project and recover and not put in good money after, bad money after good money. So from 2004 onwards, they've also had a very structured way of approaching project management. 2004, they made it compulsory that for all IT projects, you have to have a professionally qualified project manager, otherwise there is a risk of loss of funding. 2007, they brought in more structured programs, and they made it, PMP certification, I think, was made compulsory. And then there have been various studies that wherever there have been professionally qualified project managers, things have been different. So therefore, professional qualification is something nobody can debate about.
Sure. So I think one way is to really say that we have to really go out and really implement these kind of principles in terms of the project. But again, me coming basically from an IT and a telecom background, and when I really start thinking through and comparing some of the things that we really do in government, at times you really feel that some of the things may not be really be appropriate to drive. Because one of the key elements that you really look for in a project management setup is that how do you really measure the short to medium term kind of a objective evaluation or attainment in terms of a project. Now, Jess, I think you talked about quite a good amount of things that you really did in terms of this whole Cyberabad zone, and you have really been dealing with quite a good amount of these projects which have been linked up to that environment conditions as such, going for the go green kind of an approach, using quite a good amount of approach which really led up to that kind of an enabling setup. Now, when you talk about this kind of a projects, these projects to really quantify that how we are going to really measure the effectiveness of attainment of the goal from a shorter medium term standpoint become extremely difficult, right? And if you, as it says, that if you are not able to really measure, you cannot manage, right? So how do you really go about doing this? How do you really apply, and how do you really make this project so successful as such at the end of the day?
So Sanjeev, to carry forward with this example which you talked about, I'll just give a small background. This area where we are sitting now, this is called Cyberabad, for those who are not from Hyderabad. And my organization, the Industrial Infrastructure Corporation, we are responsible for managing this enclave of Hyderabad. In fact, we had initially got it into this shape, and it is our endeavor to ensure that Cyberabad continues to represent the best urban practices, the best quality of living, quality of working in the country, if not the world. So we have recently embarked upon this project, which we call a retrofitting project. So there are close to 250 buildings here, office buildings and residential buildings in the whole of Cyberabad. And we want to introduce a number of measures in these buildings. For example, to retrofit all of these buildings into green buildings, ensure a proper waste disposal system, wherein you kind of segregate all the waste, and every piece of waste which you generate is reused and recycled. Have a proper system of disposal of electronic waste if you generate any. Also make all these buildings barrier free. Have a very good plantation program. Encourage people who work in these buildings or live in these buildings to cycle, to use cycling. And also conserve all the water which you get, rainwater. Every bit of water is harvested. So this is a 5-point green agenda with which we are taking up this program. Now, as you rightly said, this is a very ambitious kind of things. The government has some role, but eventually we require all the stakeholders to play their own roles in this project. And this whole project could have remained a very ambitious, wishy-washy kind of a project, but as you rightly mentioned, unless there are measurable, quantifiable indicators, and there is some agency which is objectively able to measure the progress, this will kind of remain just a wishful kind of a project. So first of all, we realized that the in-house capacity of my own organization to keep track and first of all design such kind of a performance measurement framework is very, very difficult. So we have outsourced it to a very competent agency. It is an agency, international agency called the GIZ, which has lots of experience in handling green projects, both in the industrial sector and other sectors. And GIZ and us, we have identified implementation partners for each of these. So for instance, NASCOM Foundation is looking at some component. The Green Building Council is, CII GBC is looking after some component, and so on and so forth. So each of these implementation partners and GIZ together have given us a template or a framework of how success can be measured, how they will do that, and they are in the process of identifying a number of volunteers who will do that. So there will be some kind of in-house mechanism to have an oversight, but largely it is outsourced to people who are in best position to do this. So from this example, there are a couple of very interesting learnings. In the context of project management also, if you look at the history of how this concept has permeated within the government, obviously in the good old days, there was no real concern about project management. Everything was in-house. Government used to implement, and their own engineering staff or project people would keep an oversight on what is happening. Thereafter, it was realized that we must have a quality control wing within your organization. So particularly large organizations which handle lots of engineering works. My own organization, for example, we have a quality control wing in it. So some of the engineers who have received some training or have some aptitude for this kind of work, they populate that wing. But we have also realized, and various other government organizations do this, to engage a third party quality control or a third party monitoring system, which came into existence in the roughly in the 90s and all, this third party quality control. So apart from your own individual teams, you engage a third party also. But then as Dr. Bajaj pointed out, it was found that, okay, once the project gets off the ground, you can monitor these things. But what about the delays? What about the structuring problems which are there a priori? So then it was realized that you must also have, at the same time when you are bidding out a project, you must also bid out a project management consultant. So now more and more projects. For example, we did the Outer Ring Road project here in Hyderabad. There were many bids which were invited for PMCs, project management consultancies, and with the help of our own in-house people and the project management consultants, we were able to do a reasonably good job, despite the fact that there were legal hurdles and certain other kinds of challenges. But I still agree with other speakers that the kind of thoroughness which is required at the planning stage also, that is missing, and definitely governments need to build in-house capacities. So this is where things stand as of now.
Okay. So coming back to one element that I was really looking into today, there are quite a good amount of talk that we always have about national e-governance plan, right? And the mission mode projects, right? Now, if you look into those kind of projects, I think it is really very, very structured in terms of what the goal that you want to really attend, how it is going to be implemented, what the schedules are, objectives are, and things like that, right? But if you look into most of those projects are linked up to purely an IT kind of a setup, right? Now, Mr. Rao, I know that you also have a very, very interesting portfolio with you, which is about public service management, right? So can you just enlighten us what exactly you are trying to really do out there and how this kind of mission mode projects, criteria or qualifications can be really be extended to all other projects, including that in the infrastructure, because I definitely see a kind of a challenge in terms of trying to really drive that kind of an aspect over there.
Well, thanks, Sanjeev. Quickly taking you back to implementation of e-governance mission mode projects. And what we have done in Madhya Pradesh is something very unique and yet to be replicated anywhere else. See, very quickly we realized that the problem is that the project is structured very well. It's an IT mission mode project, and we have best of the brains on the other side who are ready to deliver the services. But the departments, who are the real stakeholders, have very little clue about implementing the project in a structured manner and the challenges that are going to be coming out. So what we did, we started hiring Project E-Mission team, which is actually nothing but hiring IT professionals from market at the market price and give them the same terms of reference and same job conditions as they were enjoying in the private sector. But this is normally unheard of in government. So I had an organization called MAP IT, which is Madhya Pradesh Agency for Promotion of IT. And in this organization, I have been able to already hire around 35 professionals from market. Many of them are also PMP certified project managers, but most of them are IT consultants. And we are talking to them in terms of CTC. And they're all being offered CTC at the same level, and then many of them are being given the jump. And we are talking in terms of KRAs, we are talking in terms of variable pay component, fixed pay component. And this has really started revolutionizing things, because now we have in our own team people who are sitting on the other side, and now they're telling our own officers and our own project teams how to actually get this project going. Now this is part of the IT team. But when we talk of service delivery and public service management, we're going a step further. And in Madhya Pradesh, we are doing something very interesting. We are now doing a complete institutional overhauling by bringing project management as a backbone of the entire government functioning. So we have signed an MOU with PMI India, and a couple of things that we are doing. One of them is to set up a project management core group, which is going to be housed in the Chief Secretary's office. And it will be, again, there will be a team hired from market. They will be experienced, certified PMC, offered the same CTC or the better CTC that they were getting in the private sector. Then we are putting project management offices in government. 10 departments we have identified to begin with, where there will be a full-fledged small team of certified PMPs who will be sitting there with the departmental heads and planning, helping them in rollout of the projects. And in fact, we have identified 6 districts, and we are going to provide PMP certified managers with the collectors for planning the district level project implementation rollout. This is one step. Second step that we are doing is, we are setting up an institutional mechanism for training our government employees in understanding the basic tenets of project management. So we are offering various courses, and PMI India, I am thankful, they are helping us in designing the courses, from 3 weeks training program to 3 months training program, and those who are willing to become PMP certified project managers, go ahead, we'll give you the funding. We'll support you in doing this certification. So essentially we want that even the smallest lower level government functionary should be able to appreciate the importance of project management concepts. Idea is that there is an executive engineer. See, the oft repeated example I keep giving is, there is an executive engineer who has to take a decision on a tender. Now, his training of last 25 years will tell him that if it's a single tender, first call, reject it. Go for a recall, go for a retender. Why to get into a trouble? Why to get into a vigilance inquiry? But now he has to understand that a recall of a tender, even if the prices that he has discovered right now are good, will delay the project by 6 months. But he has never been told to calculate the cost of the delay of 6 months and how it will eventually add to the project cost. He doesn't think that way because he has never been told to think that way. In government, typically, if a project is sanctioned, mast raho. The project can be implemented in 15, 20 years. Nobody will ask you a question. That has to change. And it can only change when the people sitting at the ground level are exposed to the best practices that is happening around the world. In private sector, if a project starts making losses, after 2 years, the project manager is told, sir, either you wind up or you quit. And I have seen many of the good IT companies coming to me as IT secretary and saying, sir, we are walking out of this project, ready to forfeit our bank guarantee, but this project is loss making, we are not going to continue to working on this project. But in government, we never wind up a project. If a project is sanctioned, it remains sanctioned for umpteen number of years. So there are bridges, there are roads, there are hospital buildings which are incomplete, and there is nobody accountable. That needs to change, and it can change. It can change because if you train the guy on the ground, he will start questioning these things to himself and to his superiors, and vice versa. These are institutional changes. Interestingly, now PMI India is working with us to develop case studies which are homegrown. So we have given them one road project, one irrigation dam project, one urban sector BRTS project, where now PMI professionals are actually doing a detailed case study so that we can discuss with our own people case studies which are relevant to them. There's no point telling them a case study of Ohio City or Chicago, which they can't relate to. But if you tell them, Bargi Dam project got delayed, let's discuss. Half of them will smile because most of them would have worked in that project and they will correlate. Yeah, I understand. This is the reason why it got delayed. So this is how I think it will take time, but this is the only way fundamentally to change the mindset in government, how institutionally you need to inculcate project management as a life breath of government functioning. That's what we're wanting to do.
Sure. Thank you. So, Dr. Bajaj, coming back to you, so I think Mr. JS really touched on a very important point around the quality control. And one of the key things that I have been observing is that if you really compare the IT setup, the private IT setup, compared to the government thing, one of the key things that I really see as a big differentiating factor is the drive towards a predictable outcome through standardization, following of the global standards, and things like that. Now, usage of those kind of standards, definitely it is there in pockets, but it is not widespread. The way, if you look into any of the companies in the IT sector, they're really adapting. Now, you have been very, very closely associated with the Quality Forum, and you have been really doing quite a good amount of work on that particular area. What is your view that how we can really proceed towards so that we have that same, Mr. Jayes really talked about a Hyderabad metro or a Delhi metro experience everywhere else? What are the projects that is being really been delivered?
Thank you, Sanjeev. I think we are talking of two issues here.
Yep.
One is standardization and implementation of standards, and the second one is replication of best practices. So I think as far as implementation of standards goes, it's a no-brainer. We should have certain standards according to which we measure ourselves, and then we say that, okay, if these are the standards for processes that we should follow, then we need that. In fact, the problem is that in India, we tend to think about standardization or quality in terms of product only. We don't have that perspective of standardization in terms of processes. So if you talk to many of the government departments, ministries, they'll say quality doesn't apply to us because we are not manufacturing anything. So quality is for manufacturing, and I think some of that is also coming because the traditional history of quality has been that it started out with manufacturing, and now we are trying to apply those principles and see how they will work in a services context. So standardization, yes, but then which should be the standards and how do we need to customize maybe some of the international standards to fit our context? That is something that we have to work on. The second part of replication of best practices. In fact, I had a very interesting interaction very recently. I don't know, sir, how you would view that. One of the senior secretaries in Government of India, we were speaking about replication of best practices, as all consultants do. So he said, Dr. Bajaj, please don't use the word replication. In the IAS, we don't believe in replication, because replication means you are copying somebody else's this thing, and we want to do our own thing. So you find a better word. We want to do it, but then you find a better word. Don't call it replication, because that puts us off. So, yeah. So what, I mean, I think we can search for a better word on Google. So replication of best practices, and also that I think it's also closely related to learning mechanisms. So when you see a best practice that has worked elsewhere, the Delhi Metro, for example, is touted everywhere as a best practice, and in fact, it's an exemplary project. But whether those best practices can be replicated in a different context, there are always question marks around that. What else do you need to do? You cannot transplant everything the same way because the context is going to be different. So to what extent, in fact, we don't tend to think in terms of the principles behind the best practice. It is the principles that can be replicated. The practice cannot be replicated. So I think we have to drive in more thought on what are the principles behind the best practice that have been that have made the best practice successful. That is something that we need to apply our mind on, and the learning systems that we build should be focused around the principles rather than the actual result. And in fact, that also, when we interact with government clients especially, that is also a challenge we face. We will be talking about the principle and they'll be talking about the result. So I have seen, so this has worked in Tamil Nadu, the health system is very good, but then we say, okay, what is the principle behind that, which can be replicated and which can be understood and applied? Somewhere there is a challenge. So the thinking in terms of principles is something that I need.
Sure. Thank you. Now, I think we can really go on discussing on this. I think there are multiple areas that I think we need to really touch, but I think we are really running out of time. So just in summary, so if I really just start off with you, Dr. Bajaj, if I really like to really call you out one thing each, what we should really start, what we should really stop, and what we should really continue as far as the project management realm is concerned within the government setup, what you will call out?
Thank you, Sanjeev. Now, finally, it's ladies first. So, in terms of what we need to start, I think we already have started thinking in terms of professional management of the work that we are doing, and especially in the project management area. What we need to stop, I think, again, there's nothing new that I'm saying, but the bureaucratic style of thinking and working is something that where we become slaves of the written word. So many times these things have to be interpreted creatively. And in terms of START, I think the organizational learning part to me is really lacking in the government situation specifically. I mean, you hear of people coming at the top, some very dynamic secretary has come and the department has got transformed, but it remains transformed as long as he's there. Somebody else comes, then you don't know. It might carry on, it might not. So we have so many examples. Surat, the district collector did this. Guntur, the municipal commissioner did this. But that was in 2006, what's happening now. So therefore, the organizational learning systems, in fact, in the private sector, and especially the company that I come from, we had a lot of focus on organizational learning. So it's not just me who needs to learn and become more proficient at it. I have to pass on that learning. So we have all these institutionalized practices of documenting learning and then handing it over, so on and so forth. In the government, I think that is something that the Department of Personnel or HR, since you talked of HR in the morning, I think that is something that we can pay a little more attention to.
Sure. So, Mr. Rao, anything that you'd like to really summarize on the specific things that we should start, stop, and continue?
Start, stop, and continue. I think we should, in the government, for me, start thinking differently, start removing the bottlenecks, start simplifying the processes. That's the start. Stop procrastination. Stop a negative attitude that nothing can change in government. That needs to be stopped, and continue. A lot of efforts are being made. We just need to continue and ensure that the results are going to come, which I'm sure will come.
Fantastic. Mr. Jays.
I think Hari has laid out a very good roadmap on what governments can really do if they're serious about project management. I'd like to really appreciate what he's doing in Madhya Pradesh. And the easiest thing to start would be to try it out in Telangana and all other states in the country as well. And one very important thing would be to also realize that projects serve a purpose. They're meant to deliver public goods. And if you are not able to deliver them on time, or if there are other kind of delays and difficulties, how much of national resources are you wasting? So that kind of realization that there is a larger element in delivering all these things on time, in the correct manner, with good quality. So that realization should come. I'm sure that if these mechanisms are institutionalized well, we will see a real change and a quick change in days to come.
So thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen, for your time today. And I'm pretty much sure there will be quite a good amount of people who are sitting out here who are going to really continuously interact and be a part of those particular stakeholder for this particular management of the government projects. And they definitely got some very, very good insights in terms of how you have really taken those particular projects in your stride and successfully delivered. Thanks a lot for your time today. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. Sure. I don't know.
Thank you, Sanjeev Das, and all the panelists. I would like to invite Mr. Saurabh Parekh, President from Mumbai chapter, to please present a memento to all of them.
Sure. Oh, okay.
All of us have to stand in the queue? No, that's okay.